Hello, students and teachers. If we haven't met before, my name is Jana Williamson, or Miss Jana, as my students call me. And today we're going to go over the terms found on the ISMTA AIM Level 11. Now, if you're already doing AIM Level 11, that means that you are an excellent student and you've already passed many levels prior to this. But I do want to remind you that AIM is a cumulative test, meaning they expect you on the test to remember everything that you did in previous levels. So it's a really good idea to go review your old terms from level 10 and below, as well as practice your level 11 terms. If you look in the description of this video, I will put a link to other videos that I have, as well as to Quizlet lists. Quizlet is a great way to practice your terms so they're fully memorized and you really, really know them. All right, let's get started. In level 11, we have several terms that are types of forms. So you may have had forms before, such as binary form, ternary form, sonatina form, and now we have some more sophisticated terms of types of forms. So the first term is Baroque dance suite. And that is a set of dances that are all in the same key. The standard dances are allemande, courante, sarabande, and gigue. Probably the most well-known example of this is the Bach French suites. Bach wrote 6 sets of these, each of them in their own key. And so I've put a video on this slide, which I will link in the description, of Andras Schiff playing the French suite in G major, which is one of the most well-known. I would strongly suggest that you listen to that and especially listen to how the allemande, courante, sarabande, and gigue sound so that you have some connection between the term itself and what this might sound like. Perhaps you've already played some movements of a French suite. It's a great thing to do while you're also preparing for your level 11 exam. So the first specific dance is the allemande, which is a dance in moderate 2/4 or 4/4 time. And it's usually the first movement of a Baroque dance suite. The only exception to this is that sometimes there's a prelude thrown in before, but otherwise the allemande is the first one. The next one is courante, or it can also be called courante, which is the Italian spelling of that. A courante is a lively dance in triple time characterized by fast running notes. It's one of the movements of a Baroque dance suite. So if you take Spanish or another language, you might know the cognate of this. Correr is to run in Spanish, so that's one way you can remember. Courante has running notes. It's a fast dance. Next, we have the sarabande, which is a slow dance in triple time, usually 3/4, and it's one of the movements of a Baroque dance suite. Sarabandes also are unique in that they usually have a slight emphasis on beat 2. So as you listen to a sarabande, just listen. Is there a bit of a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3? Just a fun fact about them. And then the last movement of a Baroque dance suite is usually the gigue. That's the same word as our English word jig. And the official definition is a lively dance, usually in compound meter, the final movement of a Baroque dance suite. And hopefully you remember that compound meter is usually 6/8 time, or anything with 8 on the bottom. It could be 3/8, 6/8, something like that. All right, our next form is invention. An invention is a short contrapuntal work, such as the 2- and 3-part inventions of J.S. Bach. I'm guessing if you're doing a level 11 exam, you've already played a Bach invention in a previous year, and so you probably know how these feel. Remember, contrapuntal means individual lines composed that work together in a specific way. So if you remember playing a Bach invention, your right hand had its own very linear part, and your left hand had its own very linear part, and they had to work together, and Bach masterfully composed those. I have also put a link to listening to all of the Bach inventions if you'd like to go back and listen to those as well. Our next form is theme and variations. This is the easiest one because we all know what this means. A theme and variations is a simple melody followed by varied restatements. And then our last form is quite a complex one, fugue. A fugue is a contrapuntal form in which a very short musical theme or subject is presented consecutively by each voice. These statements of the subject alternate with episodes. So now we're going to talk about specific terms that you just heard in that definition that all apply to a fugue. The first one is subject. The subject is a basic theme stated at the beginning of a composition. It does not have to be a fugue, but we usually use the word subject when we're talking about fugues. The countersubject is the melody that appears against the subject. So when you look at a fugue or when you learn one, the subject will be stated all by itself in one voice, and then it will be stated again in a different voice, and the countersubject will run against it. It's like a little harmony line, a little counter melody that works nicely with the subject. The answer is the imitation of a fugal subject in another key. So for instance, if you have a fugue in G major, it will of course start in G major, and then the answer will usually be in the dominant. So in that case, D major. So you play the subject in G, and then the next time it comes in D in the dominant. Our last fugue term is episode. Episodes are sections of a fugue in which the subject is not present or does not appear in its entirety. You can think of this as a little bit of a break from the strict fugue form that has to have the subject going on all the time. It's a little bit of an interlude between subjects. Okay, so we're moving away from forms now, and now we have secondary dominant. This is a term that is tricky to understand simply based on the definition. So do a lot of work in your workbook or with your teacher looking at actual secondary dominants in repertoire, and that will really help you understand it. A secondary dominant is the 5, the dominant, or dominant seventh of any scale degree other than the tonic. I'm just going to give you one quick example. If you're in the key of C for your piece and you see a D major chord with an F sharp, that F sharp clearly does not belong in the key. So we can explain that chord, the D major chord, by saying that it's the dominant of the dominant. D is the 5 of G. So this happens frequently. You'll be in one key and then you'll suddenly have a chord that doesn't belong because it's the dominant of something else. And that's how we explain it theoretically. So again, talk with your teacher about that so you really understand that and look at some examples in repertoire. Alla breve indicates a tempo with the half note getting the beat. It's the same as cut time. Sotto voce means subdued or in an undertone. Voce is the Italian word for voice, so it means a low voice, subdued voice. Duplet means 2 notes in the time of 3 notes of the same value. This is the flip of the definition of triplet. Triplet is 3 notes in the time of 2 notes of the same value. So if you're in compound time, 3/8 or 6/8 or 9/8, you normally have 3/8 notes beamed together. If the composer wants to switch from feeling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, bum, 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 then they will write a duplet. They're switching the feel of it. And this is very similar to our last term, which is hemiola. Hemiola refers to a rhythmic device superimposing 2 beats in the time of 3 or 3 beats in the time of 2. Again, you're feeling it one way and suddenly the composer shifts it to feeling it the other way. This is another term that's very difficult to understand just by reading the definition, and you need to look at several musical examples of this. So I'll let you do that in your workbook or with your teacher, but just remember it's the switching of the feel. If you've been in 3, suddenly it feels like 2, or if you've been in 2, suddenly it feels like 3. Good luck with your exam. I know you're going to do great. Happy studying and best wishes.